Alright, what is going on, guys? It is Jay here, your commissioner of the WPL, also the head coach of the Blue Eyes White Dragonites. How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, today's going to be a special video. We are going to go over what happened to allow the Season 2 playoffs to kind of go through the way they are right now. And this is going to be a video, just kind of a preview of what to expect in Week 1 of the playoffs. So I guess the quarterfinals. A lot of crazy things happened. I am actually not a playoff team if one of the literally the last match of Week 8 went a different way. So there were so many different things. I think 7 of the 8 playoff spots, 2 through 8, were all decided on Week 8 by all the matches, however they worked out, and everybody could have ended up in completely different spots. So you know what? That was a very stressful yet exciting week. That was nuts because I had a very important match myself, which I did win, but not exactly. I did not make it easy for myself. The way I won 2-1, and said we'll get into it after. But yeah. So this video, we're just gonna go over some of the first round matchups, mine included, my predictions. We're also gonna go over strategies to look out for, things like that, and. And we'll see what we come up with here, because there is just so much to dive into right now when it comes to, again, how the team's seasons went out, how the Week 8 ended up, Pokemon that were big for them, late editions, early editions, and yeah, we'll see what we get into. Okay, so let's start off with going over the first round matchups for Season 2 of the quarterfinals. So just standard bracket. I don't know if you guys have seen the what's it called, the March Madness and stuff like that, and just the way playoff brackets usually work. So we're doing pretty much the exact same thing as what most people do. Out of the 8 teams that make the playoffs, we're going to do 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, and 4v5. 4v5 is probably, well, it's the closest matchup when it comes to seeding, so it's usually the most exciting. So 1v8, we got Kentucky Wild Bolts, no surprise there. An 8-0 team, just absolutely made a joke of his first season with the league. And he's going up against the Blue Eyes White Dragonites, myself. So I've got a tall order there when it comes down to that one. So clearly, that one, yeah, we'll get into my match later. But yeah, then we got 2v7. So we have Great Marsh Gastrodons versus the Space City PC. Space City's first appearance in the playoffs, missed Season 1 but just by a little bit. Same thing with myself, Blue Eyes White Dragonites. So yeah, first appearances there for us. Then we've got 3v6, which is Dublin Delmise in the 3 seed versus Cascade Illusions. First season in the league, first playoff appearance. Good, congratulations to him. He had a hell of a season, which is, yeah, I think he's got a strong shot going in as the underdog here in the 6th slot. So, and then we've got 4v5, Dripped Out Dragapults versus the Sao Paulo Excadrilles. Justin versus Vitor. Definitely an exciting matchup there. I think all 4 of them are going to be very, very exciting when it comes down to, I don't think anyone, yeah, there are favorites, but at the same time, I think each team has a case to be made to be an upset. I don't think last season there were too many upsets. I don't think there was one, actually. Actually, maybe Justin might have lost to a lower seed, but that lower seed also probably was one of the better lower seeds. So yeah, I wouldn't be, if I were him, I wouldn't have been upset after that matchup anyway. So that's the matchups. Let's get into the individual matchups. Okay, so the first match we're going to go over is 1v8, the Kentucky Wild Bolts versus the Blue Eyes White Dragonites. Yes, I am doing my own match review. I'm going to do it first just so I can get it out of the way, because there's not really a whole lot to say in a 1v8 preview. The 1 seed, he's 8-0, and as you can see here, 8-0, 16 wins, 3 losses throughout the season, throughout all 8 weeks. He only lost 3 games, so it only went to a 2-1 in 3 of the 8 weeks. The rest were 2-0 sweeps, and yeah, just looking at his differential, kill differential, plus 29, that's a record. For us, last season our first seed didn't come close to that, and yeah, that record might stand for a little bit. So yeah, just an outstanding season by Kentucky. Hats off to you, my friend. You're gonna give me a very, very hard time in the first round of the playoffs. But there is one thing to say: a 4-4 team. Usually, a 4-4 team does not have a kill differential of +6. Also, 5 of the 10, so literally half of the games I lost were 1-0. So you know what? So if I were the number 8 seed looking down, sorry, the number 1 seed looking down at the number 8 seed, this is not what you want to see. Normally, like, yes, the 4-4 record, I am 9 wins, 10 losses. I did manage to squeak into playoffs, but at the same time, a 4-0 win, 6-3-0 wins, you know, a kill differential of +6, only losing your matches 1-0 for the most part. Yeah, that's not a match. It's not going to be an easy match. And yes, I'm trying to give this like an unbiased review as well. But just looking at the numbers alone, I love stats. And yeah, normally you don't. I think the majority of teams, if I just kind of open this up here, if I just look at everyone, yeah. So if you look at the kill differential, yes, it's the 8th seed, but the kill differential is actually, yeah, +6. I'm tied with the number 2 seed in, sorry, the number 3 seed in Dublin Delmise. So, yeah, nothing to, I don't think he's got an easy match coming up, but I do think he is the favorite in this situation, just because he appears just to be a much better player, because he hasn't really won his games by, like, setting up or all these crazy strategies, gimmicks, and things like that. I just think he is a very, very good player, knows how to prep properly, and also just get it done, right? Like, yeah, we could always go back and watch his matches and things like that, but it just seems like he was always in the driver's seat. He always had speed control. He always had just control of his matches. So there were a couple that came close. I think the closest sniff that we got was Svila Voikalkos. In week 7, I believe it was. He took him to a game 3 and pretty deep in game 3 as well. So good job getting the best of, well, out of the rest of the league, getting the best out of him by comparison. So, but let's go into the teams. So I'm going to go to my team first because B comes before K, Blue Eyes White Dragonites. So let's start with Pokemon that made an impact. So the most used Pokemon on this team was Whimsicott. 14 games played, brought all 8 weeks. One of the best prankster Pokemon in the game, best support Pokemon in the game, one of them, drafted 5th overall. It was definitely number 1 on my list by far. I wanted it over Glacier. I wanted it over every possible Pokemon you can imagine. So I was very happy with this Pokemon. Set up everybody very well. Can be used on every single team. Tailwind, huge threat, taunt, all these prankster attacks or prankster directed moves. And also other ways that you can use prankster, like a helping hand and tailwind and things like that. So yeah, look out for Whimsicott in this match. No spoiler there. I think he's going to come, as most teams, if you look at the usage, they're probably going to bring the majority of the used Pokemon. So, but yeah, so Whimsicott's probably number 1 there. Late edition Moltres, 9 kills, 2 deaths in 2 weeks. So Moltres has been a late edition in week 7, picked up 4 week 7 and week 8, and has made a huge impact. Porygon Z, just a lot of power on this side. Dragapult was a mid-season pickup. But yeah, like, I think this team, my team, is very unpredictable. Like, you could probably pick about half of them who you're thinking to come, that are going to come, but the other ones, who knows, right? You got both modes, Trick Room, Fast Mode, you name it. So, so yeah, that's definitely something to look out for. I'm not going to give away too much about my plans for the match, but yeah, we'll see what comes up. But let's jump into the Kentucky Wild Bolts roster. So, when you look at his roster, you see a lot of really good Pokemon, but you see a lot of mixed bag. But he clearly had a method to the madness. Like, when he grabbed Registeel fairly early in the draft, a lot of people were kind of going, huh? Okay. Registeel was one of his better Pokemon. It's he mostly used it in a Trick Room mode, not that he would set himself. But if somebody threatened a Trick Room team, he would definitely have Registeel and just set up. Registeel with his base 150's defense and special defense makes it one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the game. Really hard to go against when it gets that weakness policy off, even with, you know, if you wanted to run a body press set and just use iron defense, things like that. So Registeel is definitely something to look out for, but you also see Aerodactyl, that's a base 130 Pokemon, speed, gets access to Tailwind, a very strong attacker, so you can Dynamax it. As you can see, it Dynamaxed once this season in the 2 games it was brought. Sandaconda and the Boltund are definitely a strategy that can be used with the Electrify strat. electrifying your opponent's moves, and then it's ineffective against a ground type. So, and with Bolton being very, very fast, I would say Bolton is one of the most valuable players on his team. And with the competitive ability, you have no idea. You don't want to lower its stats, because then it just gets competitive boosts, and then it can sweep from there, which it showed. I believe it was one of the weeks it was there. Lele, I think that Lele with the Psychic Terrain definitely stops some Prankster Pokemon, so directed attacks won't have any effect. Also, doesn't affect on my side of the field, though, in this matchup, so there's that. But definitely something to look out for with Psychic Terrain. I did have Indeedee earlier this season, and it definitely was a blessing to stop some priority attacks coming my way, but it also stopped me from using priority attacks like Fake Out and Taunt from a Prankstermon and things like that. Sucker Punch as well. So yeah, definitely very, very good. And last but not least, I'm going to get into Spectrier. Spectrier is one of the most feared Pokemon in the entire game. It is base 130 speed again, just like Aerodactyl, and it just hits like an absolute truck. Yeah, once it gets some Grim Nays off, it just, even a +1, this thing could just wreck an entire team. So yeah, definitely got to look out for Spectrier there. But you know what? A couple of Pokemon he's brought that were a little surprising this season and had a lot of success. Like he brought Cramorant and did very, very well. Sandaconda being the best D tier in the league, hands down. He probably saw that as a steal when he drafted it, saying, "Wow, I can use this thing. What a value pick at the D tier level." Lele can be used offensively, a little bit of support as well. Blaziken, usually a singles mon, but with the speed boost and just the high attack, it's definitely something to be not taken lightly. Raichu, any Raichu, Alolan or Cantonian, is definitely something to be afraid of too. So you can see a few different possibilities with his team, things like that. Things to look out for. So when it comes down to his team versus mine, you definitely, I believe the key to beating him is speed control. I believe that if you can slow down his fast Pokemon, a few of them are pretty frail. Aerodactyl's pretty frail, and so is Spectrier. Raichu on the defensive side is fairly frail. Bolton is very frail. Things like that. Sandaconda is fairly frail on the special defense side. Toxtricity, very strong, very good in the Gmax form, but also very frail. So this team is basically very speed driven. I don't think he's going to bring a Trick Room mode just because he can't set Trick Room on his team. But hey, I might bring Trick Room as well just to kind of throw him off guard. But we'll see where he goes with that. Key to victory against my team, I would say stopping the Whimsicott. Killing the Whimsicott early would probably be a good game plan. If you let Whimsicott get its support moves off, or just its prankster moves with like Helping Hand, Taunt, Tailwind, things like that, it's just definitely hard to deal with. It's, like I said, it's one of the best support Pokemon in the game. So keeping that at bay would probably be recommended on his side. Porygon Z, you just look at the kills. Like PZ led my team in kills. PZ's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Dragapult, late edition, you get special physical support. Inteleon, special support. You know, you've got Persian's another really good support mon. Gallade, Gourgeist, Wishy. Like, there's just a lot of power on both sides of the field. So I'm curious to see what happens. I'm actually looking forward to the challenge because it's kind of in a win-win situation, because if I lose this week, then I'm not expected to beat the #1 seed, especially an 8-0 team. But at the same time, if I do manage to pull this off, I'm not too worried because I wasn't expected to win it anyway. So it should be fun. Tune in, and we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the next matchup. Okay, moving on to the next matchup, we have #2 seed Great Marsh Gastrodons versus #7 seed Space City PC. These two teams, just looking at their regular seasons, Great Marsh has been near the top of the leaderboard, the top of the standings throughout the entire season. Very, very impressive season by him. It was very enjoyable to watch his matches. He very easily made the playoffs and sealed in that 2 seed in the last week of the season with his Week 8 match. He could have finished as low as 5th, I believe. So good for him finishing in the 2 spot. Numbers just straight across the board. A lot of 3-0 wins. Very, very good kill differential. He only won one of his games 1-0. So you know what? He had a fairly commanding win most of the time. So, you know, good for him. He has a very, very strong team. I think, yeah, you, you can see him. If he won it all, I wouldn't be that surprised at all. So, but looking at Space City PC, Space City has kind of had an up and down season. He ended up making the playoffs in Week 8 as well. He definitely needed a win. He put himself in a pretty good position in Week 7, getting a win as well. So he did finish in that 7th seed as opposed to the 8th seed. But you know what, Space City, he has had a couple of interesting strategies this season, and he's also just played very well. I felt like when he's won, he was clearly the better team. You know, like a couple of the weeks, like, yeah, there were a couple really, really close matchups, but some of the weeks that he won, it was just like he was just an animal when it came to like his move selection, his predictions, things like that. So look out for Space City. You might get 2 different Space Cities. Like, there's been a couple of matches as well where it was like I felt he could have played much, much better as well. So yeah, I just think in a best of 1, well, it's a best of 3, but you lose, you go home. It really can happen to anyone. Anyone can have a bad week. And Space City, I think when he's at his best, I think he can beat pretty much anyone. So looking forward to seeing that. But let's get into the rosters here. So we're going to start with Great Marsh. Great Marsh, his MVP this season has clearly been, I believe, Grimmsnarl. You can make an argument for Kartana, but Kartana just gets, I'm pretty sure when you draft it, you automatically get 10 to 15 kills already. So, so it's just like, it's like saying when you buy a Ferrari, you automatically get like 12 speeding tickets, right, when you buy it. But yeah, Kartana just comes with kills. It is so strong, 170 base attack. It's just and then especially with, like I mentioned with Spectre, if it gets a couple of beast boosts off, you just can't stop this thing. It's very, very fast, faster than most of the Pokemon out there. But yeah, so look out for Kartana, obviously. But Grimmsnarl has been the MVP this season. You don't know which Grimmsnarl you're going to get. You can get physical Grimmsnarl that can Gmax. The Gmax snooze can be a problem. You can get special Grimmsnarl. I don't think we've seen that this season, but is definitely, I think it has 95 base special attack, I believe. I could be wrong. But yeah, special Grimmsnarl, its move selection is just fantastic as well. Its coverage is great. We saw a pickpocket Grimmsnarl this season. We saw a weakness policy. We saw, I think it might have run Life Orb against me as well when I was playing him, I believe in week 3. But yeah, Great Marsh, just great season so far. Landorus is very strong. I don't believe Landorus, a lot of people prep for Landorus because it's so strong, so good, but and I think that's where success has really come from, and that's where a lot of guys that have done very well, their success came from being unpredictable. So when you see a Landorus on the other side of field, you usually expect it to be one of the damage dealers on the team. But 6-6, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's 6-6. Who cares? You know, he's 6-2 record for the regular season. He's in the 2nd seed in the playoffs because he gave way for his Kartana, gave way for Duraludon, and just put together a really, really commanding season as well. He has a lot of good support mon as well. Hitmonlee has been great. He picked it up as a free agent, I believe, in week 1 or 2. He picked it up fairly early. Very strong. Gets coaching, fake out, bullet punch, mock punch, like, and it also gets high jump kick, obviously. Rock slide, things like that. It just hits so hard, and it's really supportive as well. So Hitmonlee was a great addition to his team. Rotom, Vaporeon, take your pick. Both of them have speed control. Both of them, they're just a pain to deal with. Snarl with Vaporeon or Eerie Impulse with Rotom. It's just, he just has a really good thing going on his team. Escavaliers for his slow mode. Gothitelle recently picked up at the end of the season for the playoffs. Not sure what he has in store for that Gothitelle. I know the Gothitelle gets, I believe it's not Shadow Tag. What is it? The one that can't let you switch out, which is, it might be Shadow Tag. I think it is. But yeah, Gothitelle not allowing switches is definitely a problem if you're in a bad matchup. Volcarona hits, also a late addition. Late trade, actually. Traded away Pelipper for that Volcarona in the B tier. I believe that redirection is going to be in play there. Also, 135 base special attack is absolutely monstrous. So if you think this thing's just going to redirect and you can just kill it, think again. This thing's going to absolutely blow you away. So, so look out for that in this playoffs here. Also, by the way, Special Landorus is very dangerous. You can't intimidate it because it doesn't matter. It also intimidates himself. yeah, Special Landers, look out for it as well. So Physical Duraludon's a possibility as well. Yeah, so I'm glad I'm not facing Great Marsh this week because I don't know what to get. You don't know what you're going to get. I faced him already. I was a little surprised with a couple of his selections, but I took him pretty late, but he ended up beating me in the end. So yeah, very, very good seasons for Great Marsh. But moving on to Space City. Space City has so much power on his team. Much better draft this season. Last season, I felt he was missing quite a few pieces, but I believe that Space City, as many others did, learned from his draft last season. He didn't have a horrible season or anything. I just felt like he was missing pieces, and that might have been the difference of him making the playoffs or not. In this season, he definitely turned it around. Absolute monstrous team. Gmax Rillaboom hits like an absolute truck. Incineroar, again, one of the best supported Pokemon with Intimidate, Parting Shot, Snarl, Will-O-Wisp. It gets so many things that can support your team to just allow them to sweep. Tornadus, I can't believe it went as late as it did in the draft. Went second round, I believe, second round, because it's Snake, it goes 1 down to 16, then 16 to 1. So the fact that it went that late, almost 32 picks went by before it was picked. So Tornadus, one of the best prankster Pokemon in the game. Again, Prankster Tailwind, Taunt, just very, very good. And it's also very strong as well. Its hidden ability is Defiant. So Defiant can definitely ruin some plans as well, and still gets access to those very fast support moves. So Politoed Kingdra, just a staple on most teams, on rain teams. As you can see, Kingdra's making its case for MVP this season, 18-6. Hard to kill, only has 2 weaknesses. I believe it was Dragon and Fairy. But yeah, Politoed, not easy to kill. Oranguru didn't get shown a whole lot this season, but definitely one of the better support Pokemon as well. It has its signature move, Instruct, allows a Pokemon to use his move twice in the same turn, which can definitely be good for stat drops and things like that, or just massive attacks. So we'll have to see how he uses it, or if he uses it there. Scizor, very, very strong on the physical side. It only has 1 weakness, but it does have a 4 times weakness in fire. It is supported by rain, so it definitely does cut that a bit. Espeon, very fast, very supportive, very strong. Lurantis, contrary. Yeah, you know what? And a late edition Pichu. Pichu does have the Lightning Rod ability, has access to Fake Out, has access to all these support moves like Nuzzle, things like that. So wouldn't be surprised if I saw Pichu as well. So yeah, so we'll definitely have to see what teams get put together. So looking at the keys to victory, I'm going to go Space City needs to stop his big boppers. If you can stop that Kartana Landorus, well, honestly, man, he has so many options. He's got Kartana, Landorus, Duraludon, Escavalier, Volcarona, and not to mention Grimmsnarl. I think that the longer this match goes, I think the advantage goes to Space City, just because there's a lot of question marks with Great Marsh, and when some of those question marks are grinded out, and you actually realize what moves they have by possibly using, I don't know if he has Frisk on his team, does he? I don't see one. Yeah, but I guess items will be revealed, abilities will be revealed, so the longer the match goes, I think if he can force a Game 3, would probably give him a better chance, just because there's so much power on the other side. If he could get a Tailwind up, yeah, speed control definitely would help here. I don't know if Trick Room's an option, just because the Escavalier just absolutely obliterates most things. So, but yeah, and his Trick Room setter on his team is Oranguru, so we'll have to see how that goes there. Espeon also gets Trick Room, I believe. So, but it's a little bit faster of a Pokemon, so we'll see. But looking on the other, yeah, so the key to the victory for Space City, I believe, is find out as much information as possible about the other team. And that goes with any single match, but I believe that there's so many question marks with this Great Marsh team. I think finding out what the Grimmsnarl is, do you taunt it? Do you attack it? Do you lower its stats? Which stat do you lower, right? Finding out certain stats will definitely, not stats, but, what's it called? Just the way the Pokemon works and things like that. I think the longer it goes, the better for him. So yeah, and being unpredictable definitely helps as well. And I think another key to victory for him is bring the A game. I think, like I mentioned in the preview as well in the beginning, if we get the good Space City, not many can beat him. So let's see which one shows up. So moving on to the next matchup, we're going to do 3v6, third seed versus the sixth seed. Dublin Delmise versus Cascade Illusions. Cascade Illusions being his first season in the WPL. But yeah, so let's just dive right in. So let's look at the team matchups again. So in the 3 seed, we got Dublin Delmise. Great season so far. Second appearance in the playoffs. Season 1 did very well. Made the playoffs again in Season 2. But yeah, what do I have to say about Dublin Delmise? I ended up facing Dublin Delmise in, I believe, week 6. Or was it week 7? I forget. And I definitely needed the win there. I was in a pretty good position to make myself in a better position in week 8. But I definitely left it down to the wire as well in the last day of the season. And I actually made it based on someone else's loss. So yeah, I would just say that Dublin Delmise, he is very unpredictable in his playing. I remember when I was playing him, there were a couple of protects that he dodged when it was like there was very little HP on one Pokemon, and he decided to switch, thinking just predicting the protect things like that. Also, when there were a couple of situations when I had the opportunity to attack, and it was just, yeah, he's just very, very unpredictable, and I think that's a very, very good thing. He's also very skilled at what he does. It's not many people can run a Sableye. Not many people can run just unused Pokemon normally. Like, not many people get to see Pokemon he has, like Como-O and Magnezone, things like that. So you know what? Very, very good draft by him. A lot of options, a lot of good support, a lot of good offensive options on his team as well, which we'll get into. Cascade Illusions, what a comeback story. Started the season 0-3, I believe, and it was not looking good. His first season with the WPL, starting 0-3. I would have to go back and look at his matches, but I think it was just kind of getting used to playing in a draft league as well and preparing and things like that. I've noticed that the more people play, the better they get at just in their prep, in their draft, and things like that. And no surprise there, in his first season, there were some missing pieces in his draft, and that might have led to his 0-3 start. But as you can see, he finished with a record of 4-4. So going 4-1 to end the season, I remember talking to him after his week 3. I said, hey, can't lose another game. Like, statistically, yes, you can lose one more. I believe 4-4 teams would make it in the end. But at the same time, if you go 0-4 to start the season, or you don't want to, but way to battle back. Congratulations to him for his playoff spot. And you know what? Commanding wins too. Like, he beat some very good players near the end. Like, if I just look at his schedule here, he ended up his last 5 games of the season. He beat Seattle Sigilifts, Sfeel Voricalcos, he beat Sao Paulo Excadrilles, lost to Great Marsh, and beat St. Patrick's Scyther. So you know what? Facing Sfeel Voricalcos was not an easy win at all. You usually didn't know what you were going to get. He played very, very well. He didn't really get blown out in any of his games, and he ended up beating the finalists from last season too in the Excadrilles. So, and he didn't just beat him; he dusted him. No offense, Vitor, but you got broke that week. But you know what, man? When you lose like that, and someone just plays really well and preps really, really well. Vitor even said that week. He says you played very, very well, and he deserved to win. So, so very, very good end to your season. You earned your spot in the playoffs, and let's see how far you can go. But let's get into the team breakdowns. Let's start with Dublin Delmise. Dublin Delmise, like I mentioned in the preview as well a little earlier, is that he has a few Pokemon that not many people would be wanting to use. Sableye with Quash is not an easy tech to master, and I believe that he has used it very, very well. Sableye, I believe, is one of the MVPs of the season. Yes, Sableye doesn't have super sexy numbers in the kill column and things like that, but if you look at a support Pokemon, Sableye only died 6 times and was brought 13 games. 13 games. I think he has one of the best, one of the best deaths per game record. He also led to a 9-4 record when he did play, so that definitely led to his playoff appearance as well. Stack Attack, it didn't get used a ton, but when it did, it just wrecked. Regigigas coughing. I think a lot of people were really surprised in the draft when he didn't grab one of the Weezings, but in the end it worked out because he didn't waste one of his S tier picks on a Weezing. He decided to go down to the F tier and grab the coughing. Very, very smart. Allowed him to draft another S tier and wasn't stuck with a Weezing, which is very good, by the way. Weezing is a very good Pokemon. The neutralizing gas is definitely one of the better abilities in the game, especially with something that has slow start like Gigas in its stats, and it just allows it to absolutely wreck. But I believe that strategy was very well prepared for by most teams throughout the season. So, which is why you can see it led to 4 kills, 6 deaths. And things like that. He was only an even record, so he actually had a better record than that Gigas did. So like when it came to kills versus wins versus losses. So you know what? I think you do have to prepare for the Gigas, because if he uses it and you don't have an answer for it, it's just going to run over you. So, and I think that could happen in the playoffs based on what Cascade does. We'll have to see what he does. Butterfree, one of the better Gmax Pokemon, I believe, just because it's just a pain to deal with. 97% accurate, sleep powders, rage powder. It's got pollen puff for healing. It's just a mess to face. So Butterfree is definitely something that can make a huge impact in the playoffs. Late edition Durant. Durant was picked up actually for the playoff roster. As you can see, no games played, no games brought. Durant is a very fast, very strong physical Pokemon, especially when it's Dynamaxed. With that Hustle ability, it gives us a boost to all of its attacks, and with the Life Orb, it just boosts it that much further. Was actually an absolute monster behind a Tailwind in the meta at one point. I believe it was early, like maybe, Series 2, Series 3, things like that. It just absolutely ran over things. So expect to see Durant picked up for a reason for either the first round of the playoffs, so just a very, very good choice overall. Araquanid was not one of the, I'm going to say it again, sexiest picks that he had, but with that Water Bubble ability on the physical side and the special side, it just boosts the power of his water attacks. Araquanid is one of the silent killers on this team. Not very silent when you look at the total kills, number 2 on the team. But it didn't die. Like a lot of people seem to take it for granted. 4 deaths through 8 games. So very, very good numbers. And I think the most impressive thing that we don't really look at here is it only was Dynamaxed once. Usually when you see high kill counts like that, it's because there's a mix of non-Dynamax kills and a lot of Dynamax kills as well. But only Dynamaxing once and getting 14 kills, very impressive. I think using the Pokemon to the best of his ability and getting the most out of this Araquanid, very, very good. The Komo-o, another very, very good Pokemon on his team, using physical and special throughout the season. Very, very strong, very, very hard to deal with. Again, once it's Dynamax, I think it was one of his primary Dynamaxes this season. Very hard to stop. Max Knuckles that are stab are definitely hard to deal with on the physical side. Late edition, again, just for the playoff roster, was Marowak. Marowak just being a lot of the times it's being used for the Lightning Rod ability, but if this Marowak gets its Rock Head ability, it's just an absolute monster as well. And the Thick Club is never something to sleep on as well. You don't have to run Thick Club on Marowak, but Thick Club and maybe a dual purpose, right? It can stop the Elekey on the other side. Lightning attacks, drawing them in. Doesn't stop them entirely, but it definitely draws them in. So if it attacks both sides of the field, it definitely gives it an advantage there. But yeah, Marowak, its attack is just so monstrous. When it doubles its attack stat, it doesn't just make its base 80 attack stat 116. No. If you invest in, like, say, Adamant or just whatever it might be, and say its attack comes up to, I don't know, 140 or something like that, it doubles that. So now it's 280 or whatever it might be. So just in case you didn't know how that worked. The Carbink, one of his better Trick Room setters on the team, along with Stack Attacka, definitely gives them some options there to go fast mode or slow mode. Butterfree having Tailwind as well. So yeah, a lot of the time you don't really know what you're going to get when you face Dublin. I keep saying that for most teams, but as you can see, the better teams are very unpredictable. and not knowing what you're going to get. And when you know what you're going to get, and you can tell with this Gigas coughing strategy as well, it's very, very strong, Gigas coughing. But if you know what you're going to get, you can usually stop it pretty good in draft league, right? So maybe just tips for people in future drafts. Just going with these sexy meta duos might not necessarily be the best way to go. Mixing it up, having very versatile Pokemon would definitely give you success, as shown in WPL's history. Moving on, because I'm taking a long time to go through these. Cascade Illusions, like I said, very, very good throughout the season after week 3, finishing 4-1 in the last 5 weeks of the season to make his playoffs a possibility. As you can see, Dragonite was one of his better Pokemon throughout the season. Gmax Lapras, very, very scary. The Gmax Resonance setting up both screens in one attack is very, very good. Weakness Policy Lapras, or also the Life Orb Lapras. Not very strong without those items, but also can be used in a support role as well. Very hard to kill. But yeah, Gmax Lapras, always something to look out for. Eliki, fastest Pokemon in the game by far. Can be used offensively, support. It can just get in there, Volt Switch out after it, if it has a bad matchup, or it could just start doing a ton of damage as well. I actually ran an offensive Eliki on the ladder a while ago, and it was just absolutely monstrous. It killed a lot of things, not to mention if it sets up terrain, it just boosts the damage even further. So watch out for Eliki. Galarian Moltres, if anybody plays competitively at all, Galarian Moltres is just... it's just so strong. It is so strong. Its special defense stat is so good. And not to mention with his Berserk ability, and you could throw a Life Orb on it or a Weakness Policy, and it just runs through things. Talonflame was actually surprisingly dropped by Dripped Out Dragapults mid-season and swiftly picked up. No surprise there by Cascade. There were actually 2 claims for this Pokemon at the same time, but based on the waiver order, Cascade grabbed and benefited from that. So Talonflame has been very, very good for his team. Priority Tailwind with Gale Wings. The ability allows it to get a priority Brave Bird as well, which is a stab, 120 base attack move. Very, very strong. It does have the recoil, but at the same time, if you get a Brave Bird off that does that much damage, it's just monstrous. But usually Tailwind is the way to go with that. Do 1 point of damage to this thing. It no longer has priority, so that could be one of the strategies on Dublin's side. Dragonite, very, very strong. If you want to, it can run both abilities. It has the multi-scale ability to limit the amount of damage done by by just any attack if it's full health. So a lot of the times Dragonite, people stopped using it because 4 times weak to ice. You just use an Ice Beam and it would just blow it out of the water, right? But with that multi-scale ability, it sticks around for at least 1 more turn, so it can get rid of its threat and then just sweep the rest. So Dragonite's very, very strong. Gets Inner Focus as well, so you can't lower its attack, which is very, very good. And also doesn't allow it to be flinched. So if it's not your Dynamax option, definitely a good option as well. Slowking being the only Trick Room option on the team, that's an option as well because he has some slower threats near the bottom. Excelgor, very good support, can lower your stats, things like that. Struggle Bug, Acid Spray, things like that. Extremely fast, so fast, and it could just do a lot of really rough things to your team. Haxorus, we all remember Haxorus from last season's finals. We won't get into it, Vitor. But Haxorus has been very, very good this season. I know it's only been used a few times, but when it was very, very threatening and very, very good. So I wouldn't be surprised if he used it in the playoffs. Avalugg, can't see it being used. Scolipede, very, very good with the speed boost. Scraggy, arguably one of the best S tiers throughout the season. F Frank tiers throughout the season. Scraggy, very, very good support. Very hard to kill. And, it can take out those 4 times weak to fighting unexpectedly as well. Alolan Vulpix hasn't been used this season, but does get the hail from its ability, Snow Warning. But yeah, so there are the 2 teams right there. Yeah, in the end, I can see either team coming away with this. I'm so happy with the way the season turned out, just because every team is just so good. No one's a guarantee win throughout the season, in any week, really. But you just got to show up each and every week, right? So when it comes down to the playoffs, you lose, you're done. You win, you move on. So 3 wins to get to the championship. Let's see how it goes in the next matchup. Okay, last but not least, we have the 4 seed versus the number 5 seed. Bringing us Dripped Out Dragapults in the 4 seed, Sao Paulo Excadrilles in the 5 seed. Boy, did we not expect this to be the 4v5 first round matchup. I don't think either player wanted to see this matchup, but no matter who finished in either of these seeds, you're facing a really good team. Because I believe the 2, 3, 4, and 5 slots could have been any of the teams. All very, very good teams. Horrible draw, but you know what? That's why it's so good for the tiebreakers and the Gastrodons and Delmise to actually finish it up, so they didn't end up having a very, very high seed matchup in the first round. So, but let's see how this one works out. Let's get into the preview. So, Dripped Out Dragapults, very, very strong throughout the season. Pretty much sealed his way into the playoffs fairly early. Very, very good with his Metagross and just supporting cast and things like that. I believe the MVP is going to be on his team. We'll have to see how the voting goes. But as you can just see, his kill differential is just very, very good. He kind of played with his food all season. Justin kind of, like some people say, he trolled and things like that. I also just think Justin's a very, very good player and can definitely mess around and things like that and be unpredictable and use very unorthodox strategies, which kind of catches his opponent off guard. Not many people can do that and still finish in the playoff spot. So good on him. It looks like he had a lot of fun this season, and like I said, played with his food. So let's see if he's a little bit more, I don't know, orthodox, I guess. So he's not unorthodox. But you know what? Good for him. Let's see how it goes in round 1. So, Vitor, Sao Paulo Excadrilles. It's funny, everybody has a team name, but he is just Vitor. Everybody knows him as Vitor. Youngest player in the league, one of the most skilled players in the league, if not the most skilled player in the league as of right now. Vitor's kind of had a rocky season. From week 1, a little bit of an upset from a finalist in week 1, but sometimes you just have bad matchups in weeks as well. But you can definitely tell... he, just like Space City, we've seen 2 different Vitors throughout this season. We've seen glimpses of his last season where he was just on fire and was pretty much unbeatable throughout the season, and one of the most feared players. So, but this season, there have been some times where you're just kind of like, it doesn't look like, you know, he was 100% Vitor at the moment, right? Whether or not it was... I'm not exactly sure what it was, but yeah, like you saw such a dominant player last season, and this season you see just a little bit of a makes him more human. He's not an alien, so he's actually a human being. So you know what though? But still, I wouldn't want to be playing him first round, second round, or third round of the playoffs. Let's just say that. So last season he did have a little bit of, not an upset, because he did lose to the number 1 seed in the finals, but I believe he felt he could have had that one, and maybe his opponent at some point in the match as well felt the same. But you know what? I think he's got his team. Also, Vitor didn't draft his team this season. He actually had someone do it for him. He gave a list, and I'm not giving him any breaks or anything, but at the same time, we saw with Yizzle switching teams at the end of the season, having a new coach take over the team. It's very, very hard to play someone else's team, or not exactly whatever it might be, right? Like you've got a team in front of you. Either you didn't pick them, or it's not your team. It's kind of hard to know exactly how to use them and kind of come into your own with this team, right? So I think Vitor has made a few moves throughout the season, maybe grinded out a couple of those issues, and you can definitely tell that he's out for blood right now when it comes in the playoffs. Has something to prove because he lost in the finals last season, so look out for him. Well, let's get into the rosters. So Dripped Out Dragapults, top to bottom, this team is just absolutely monstrous. You look at the Urshifu, Metagross, Thundurus, Raikou, Corviknight was picked up very late, Crocodile, Ludicolo, Steelix, Tentacruel. Like, you see these Pokemon and they're just very, 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 very strong. It's very rare you see this many good Pokemon on one team. Yeah, Justin has a very, very good team, drafted very, very well. He has a couple of gimmicks on there as well. And I believe he's used I'm sure he has some more tricks up his sleeve, but let's get into a couple of these Pokemon here throughout that he's used throughout the season. So I'm going to start with Metagross. Metagross, front runner, I believe, for the MVP this season. 23 kills, 7 deaths. His 9-4 record with this Pokemon whenever it played is very, very good. One of the most Dynamax Pokemon in the game. He's run so many different sets with this Metagross. Very good typing, Steel type, Psychic type, very, very good. Kill death ratio is just monstrous. So you know what? I think he led the league in kills as well with 23. So very, very good Pokemon to look out for. And it's just one of those examples. Even if you know it's coming, he came in 13 games this season. It's still very, very hard to deal with. Either he leads it, it's in the back row. No matter what you do, it's going to be hard to deal with. So very, very good pick by him. Thunderous, Defiant ability, Prankster ability. He's run a lot of support Thunderous this season. I know during the meta there was a lot of offensive Thunderous running around. Very, very good. But I believe it was in a more support role using Rain Dance and Taunt and things like that. So I'm not sure exactly which one we're going to get in the playoffs versus in round 1 against Vitor. They did actually play in, it was week 7, I think it was. But I think neither of them really wanted to show a whole lot of what they were going to do in the playoffs. So that was, I wasn't really looking at that match too much as a preview for the finals. Even though they are the same teams, but I think that we're going to get 2 very, very different teams in this playoff round. Corviknight added right at the last minute along with Steelix for the playoff roster. Corviknight, just an absolute tank. This thing is very, very hard to kill. We haven't seen it all season. No one drafted the Gmax version nor the A-tier version of Corviknight. So this is the first we're going to see it. But the bonus is Vitor did have Corviknight last season, so he's very familiar with what it can do and things like that. It's typing, how to beat it. Yeah, he's probably going to have a good answer for that. Steelix is the late edition as well. One of the highest defensives in the entire game. If you attack this thing with a physical move, doesn't matter if it's super effective, doesn't matter what it is, this thing's going to eat it up, and could be a weakness policy set. We'll have to see. It was traded over in week 8 from the Sphelovoid Calcos, and it traded at the end of the season. So good addition by him. I love Steelix. I think Steelix is very, very good. Throw an Assault Vest on it, very, very strong. Lacks in the offensive department, but you can throw Life Orb or weakness policy to make up for that as well. Or you can also do something along the lines of coaching or things like that. Max Knuckles can also boost. So we'll have to see how he goes with it. I think it will be used just because it was added for a reason, as well as the Corviknight as well. So expect to see those in the finals. Near the bottom, Miltank. It was very, very funny to see this thing show up. I believe it was in week 8. I can't see us using the Skarmory this week. Inkay, not going to get used. Wooper. You know what, Justin? I challenge you right now if you're watching this video. You've been talking a big game about this Wooper. Let's see if you have the cojones to bring this in a playoff matchup. I know Wooper's very, very good, actually. It's the slowest after you user in the game. I think it has 15 speed, so if somebody sets up Trick Room on you, then you can definitely use after you and allow your faster opponent or higher speed total opponent to go before everyone else and just destroy things to almost remove the Trick Room status as well, right? Or the speed order on the field, right? So after use, very, very good move. Dynamax Super, I can't believe we saw it. He said he was going to do it and did it, so let's see if he brings it in the playoffs. So very, very good season by Justin, and let's see what he does. Let's move on to Vitor's roster. So like I mentioned, Vitor kind of feeling at his team throughout the season. I think this is he might have the team he wants. Mid-season trades with myself. He ended up grabbing the Indeedee, and he also grabbed the Salamence as well off of free agents. So yeah, Decidueye was also a late pickup as well. Gmax Duraludon, probably the lesser of the two Duraludons, Gmax form and non-Gmax form, just because the Gmax depletion is, I believe, is not quite as good as the Max Wormwind, getting the attack drops on your opponent. So that's why a lot of people don't prefer Gmax Duraludon. But at the same time, Duraludon itself, if you don't Dynamax it, very solid Pokemon. Very strong offensively, physically, special attacking. You throw an Assault Vest on, or AV Vest, as one of our league members calls it. Very hard to kill. Very, very hard to kill. Weakness policy is definitely a set as well. This thing is if this thing gets going, absolute monster. Indeedee, that very, very valued redirection. I used it throughout the season before it was traded. Very, very good. Sets up the terrain to stop the priority attacks that are directed at your team. So very, very good. Salamence only had it 2 weeks. It was a late edition, I believe, in week 6. He grabbed it for week 7 and 8. It's just so strong. Salamence, I believe, in previous VGC formats, in previous generations, was one of the go-tos with this Mega Evolution, and even not with a Mega Evolution, it was just very, very strong. One of the pseudo-legendaries, as well, as we like to call them. Mudsdale, Mudsdale, I believe, lost a little bit of support when he got rid of his Dragapult. Dragapult is able to beat it up to allow its stamina ability to go to +4, its defense +4, and then it can body press and things like that. Surf also allowed it to get its weakness policy off. No longer an option with that Pokemon gone. So let's see if that Mudsdale can get used. Very, very strong with a Life Orb, Assault Vest, weakness policy, you name it. So there are a couple different ways you can use Mudsdale. Very bulky, very tanky, and very threatening as well. Decidueye was definitely used. I think it was a Choice Scarf Decidueye at one point, and the other one was just an offensive Decidueye as well. I actually had Decidueye on my draft list before the season started, but I decided to go against it, as my entire draft did, as chaotic as it was. Umbreon, usually a singles Pokemon, but I believe when he did use it, he used it fairly well. It was kind of a pain to deal with. Darmanitan is so strong. I'm surprised he hasn't used this, as another member of our Discord is very, very surprised he hasn't used it, being one of his favorite Pokemon. Darmanitan is just an absolute monster, and with Dynamax as an option as well, is very, very strong. Sheer Force ability if you don't Dynamax it as well. But yeah, let's see if he uses it. But as you can see, games played, Darmanitan, Dreadnought, Lunatone, Krogunk, not even used. But you know what? Vitor's such a good player, so he can just, it doesn't matter if you know what's coming, he's just so good and he can kind of pull it off. Frostlass, arguably one of the better support Pokemon of the season, with Icy Winds and just a little bit of support just from offense as well. I saw it get a few kills there midway through the season. But you look at Vitor's record, 6-2 while using this Pokemon. Very, very good. Very, very supportive. I believe he's used this Pokemon almost as good as you could, flawlessly. Another mid-season addition in Duskull. He doesn't have a very solid Trick Room setter. I believe Lunatone gets Trick Room, but I clearly didn't feel comfortable using it. I know in week 1 when I was facing him, I saw that at the time that was his only Trick Room option, so I definitely had a counter for that. But Duskull, poor man's Dusclops. You throw an Eviolite on it. I believe its defenses are still 90. Its HP stats, I believe, only 20 or 25. But with the Eviolite making its giving a 50% boost to his defenses, very, very strong. Gets the same moves that Dusclops does, maybe a couple that are missing because of the evolution difference. But yeah, you can set up your Trick Room, Ally Switch, you can Taunt, you can Pain Split, you can do all of the pain in the butt things that Dusclops can do. So maybe look out for that as well. But yeah, so I guess that does it for our last matchup. Now let's get into the predictions. Okay, so I am going to do my predictions for the round 1 of the playoffs. This is going to be a little hard because I'm in it, so I'll try to give statistical, reasons why, and also just the matchups, just the way I see them, and things like that. So yeah, let's jump into whatever. Let's just start with mine because I know everybody wants to know what I think. So when I saw this matchup, I thought I had a decent matchup because I do see his team's very, very fast, but I do have priority Tailwind, so the speed isn't a huge, huge issue on my side of the field. So yeah, that's usually where a lot of his Pokemon can kind of get the advantage there, because he's got the Spectrier and things like that, and the Raichu's very, very fast. But you know what, though? I think that as it goes for my prediction, I'm not going to go crazy and say that I believe that an 8 seed is my pick because it's me, or any 8th pick. I just think 1v8, one has to win. How can you say one doesn't win in this situation? Someone squeaks into the playoffs, and someone has such impressive stats as the Kentucky Wild Wolves has. So my pick is clearly going to pick, unless I have something to say about it, but I believe that the 8-0 team is just going to run his way past the first round. It might be a close matchup, but I do think that he is a very, very skilled player, better than myself. So we'll have to see how this plays out. That's why the games aren't played on paper, but at the same time, an 8-0 team is very, very, I wouldn't say intimidating, but you can make a case that this thing's just going to win, especially against a team that just squeaked in and didn't have the most impressive season. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Speed control could be an issue. Matchups, leads, things like that, and timely protects, and just playing very, very well is going to allow the winner in this 1 versus 8 matchup. Moving on to 2v7, Great Marsh versus Space City. So Great Marsh, as we went through, has just been dominating all season. I think there was 1 week that even he kind of scratched his head going like, yeah, that wasn't my best week. But you know what, Space City is a very, very good player, but at the same time, has shown up and also not shown up to some matches too. So I think based on consistency, I would give the edge to Great Marsh here. Great Marsh is just such a good player. Made the playoffs last season, so he belongs here. Space City, it's his first appearance, you know, kind of squeaked in just like myself. But I do believe, just statistically speaking, I'm not going to say 1's going to beat 8, 2 versus going to beat 7, 3's going to beat 6. Wait, I'm not going to say that because that's just silly. What's the point of even saying that? But I do believe in this case, because Great Marsh has been consistent throughout the season, and Space City could win, absolutely, just because when he's on, like I mentioned in the preview, not many can beat him. He is very, very good. His roster is very, very good. Rillaboom, Incineroar, Tornadus, Kingdra, Politoed. If he gets some good matchups and just plays really, really well, I think he could easily win this, even a 2-0 sweep if he needed to. But Great Marsh has just shown that he's been a very, very good player, one of the top players in the league all season. So my pick goes to Great Marsh in that matchup, 2v7. All right, 3v6, a little bit of... Obviously, we're getting closer when it comes to records, and so we got a 5-3 versus a 4v4 or a 4-4 record. So these could go either way. But Dublin Delmise is just such a good player. Like last season, he was very, very good throughout the entire season. I would say this is the exact same Dublin we had last season. Very, very unpredictable, very hard to beat. Very difficult to use Pokemon that other people usually can't use to the fullest. So that Sableye is just an absolute support monster in this game. So let's see how he uses it in this matchup. Cascade Illusions is the hotter player right now because of his record leading up into the playoffs. I believe his roster to be slightly better than Dublin Delmise. So in this situation, just because Dublin has a better record and is a higher seed, I would give the edge to Cascade in this situation. Cascade has figured something out in week 4 throughout now. Not a team you want to face when you're a higher seed. You don't want to face a hot team going into the playoffs, but it doesn't get much hotter than that unless you're the number 1 seed and you're 8-0. You didn't lose at all. But yeah, you don't want to face a hot team going into the playoffs, and he is very, very hot right now. His roster is also very, very good. Couple of late additions at the end of the season, and he's just playing very, very well. So I give the edge to the number 6 seed versus the number 3 seed. I'll give it to the number 6 seed. All right, so moving on, 4 versus 5. So this one's very, very hard to predict because you have 2 very, very good teams. I believe that both of these teams underachieved based on what their records show and their statistics show. So that's why the games aren't played on paper. Like a -4 differential by Vitor is not a Vitor-like stat at the end of the season. But you could also make an argument that his stats are the stats. They don't really lie, right? But yeah, Vitor is the same thing as Space City. Vitor has been 2 different players most weeks. Some weeks he just absolutely dominates, and you're just like, yeah, this is the Vitor I remember. And then there's some weeks where you're just like, oof, did someone play for him? Was he unavailable and somebody played his team for him? But you know, and that just goes to show the longevity of a good team in the league, right? 8 weeks long, then you got 3 weeks in the playoffs, so 11 weeks. You got to put it together for all 11 weeks, or else you're not really going to have a whole lot of success. So you know what, though? He made it. Anyone can win when you make in the playoffs. So I can see a number 5 seed winning it all. I can see a number 4 seed winning it all. 6, 7, 8, right? So it's not just the top seeds that are the biggest threats. So we'll have to see how that goes. Drifted Dragapult, I don't know, man. Justin, he's just so good, and his roster's very, very good on the physical side, though. So if you can kind of stop his physical offense, he doesn't have a ton of special attackers on his team. So if you go physically bulky, you could have an answer for it. Vitor, I do believe Justin has the better roster. I do believe that Vitor has potential to win. But just based on what I just mentioned, the better roster on Dripped Out, and also the consistency throughout the season, and I believe that he should be a higher seed. It's just he didn't want to give too much away for the playoffs. I would give the edge to Justin, the number 4 seed, moving on. Sorry, Vitor. I hope you come out on top, but at the same time, I think that Justin's got it this week. But hey, guys, these are just predictions, so we'll just have to see how it plays out on the field. So thank you for tuning in. I hope this was really helpful. If I said anything about your team you didn't like, shoot me a message, let me know. But no offense to anyone, including myself, my opponent. Best of luck to you as well. Kentucky, hopefully you have a good matchup this week. And good luck to everybody else. And I'll see you on the field.